The global End It Now campaign mobilizes Adventists against abuse, focusing on the elderly and digital violence. In Japan, a Pathfinder camporee brings together Pathfinders from across the country after 7 years. Adventist hospitals in the United States adopt solar energy and composting to better care for health and the planet. In Africa, Creation Sabbath campaign aims to plant 1 million trees. Christian Film Festival gathers 1,300 people and discusses mental health in Venezuela. You will see it now, here on ANN. Welcome to another episode of ANN. End It Now is a global initiative of the Seventh-day Adventist Church dedicated to raising awareness and combating all forms of abuse. From different countries, Adventists united for this purpose. We start in the North Asia-Pacific region, where this year's focus highlighted a theme often overlooked: abuse against the elderly.
In Bangladesh, the elderly were honored in 4 regions, receiving gifts and participating in seminars on abuse prevention. In Pakistan, communities promoted awareness events with the theme, Be the Voice. Despite the geographical distance, Bangladesh and Pakistan came together to celebrate End It Now. Together, they advocated for the dignity of the elderly and emphasized the importance of protecting and speaking out against violence.
Now, let's go to the South Pacific region.
On the remote Tonga Island in Papua New Guinea, over 80 individuals participated in this End It Now program, which included programs highlighting abuse prevention. A team from the Seventh-day Adventist Church in the Lihir district visited the community, distributing basic supplies and emphasizing the importance of protecting and supporting the elderly and individuals with disabilities. The program highlighted the community's responsibility to act against violence and abuse, providing practical guidance and awareness. The residents welcomed the initiative as a milestone for the island, showing that campaigns like this can transform lives, even in isolated areas.
In Australia, the End It Now campaign also mobilized communities.
In Sydney, the End It Now event, held at Mountain View Adventist College, brought together over 100 people. The program featured lectures that emphasized the importance of taking action against violence.
Let us be a church that reflects the heart of Christ, a heart that heals, protects, and uplifts. And let us be a community that says, no more, not here, let's end it now.
Participants emphasized the importance of the event.
Our hearts, thoughts, and prayers go to the women who are affected and were affected with regards to violence and abuse and mental abuse and things like that.
And I think it's important that Seventh-day Adventists speak up about it, especially as Christians with important beliefs.
Especially with the question answer section of the program, I think everyone felt pretty empowered, sharing your stories and being vulnerable.
As a church, let us get behind this initiative. Let us come together stronger so that we can support those who have been afflicted by pain, by emotional abuse, by physical abuse, by spiritual abuse and sexual abuse. So let's come together and end it now.
In addition to the meeting in Sydney, participants also led other projects in the Victoria region. 60 emergency kits containing essential items such as water and blankets were collected to support individuals experiencing domestic violence. On the eve of the meeting, an online gathering brought together about 100 participants on YouTube and Facebook. During the event, a new End It Now website was launched in Australia, providing resources to strengthen community safety. The campaign emphasizes that everyone can stand up to protect the most vulnerable and say no to violence.
In South America, the End It Now campaign, called Breaking the Silence, focused on the impact of digital violence.
About 30,000 people participated in the End It Now March on Avenida Paulista in São Paulo, Brazil. The demonstration emphasized the risks of the internet and the impact of virtual abuse on children, youth, and adults. 10 organized groups marched down the avenue, distributing resources, while drum corps entertained the crowd. Broadcast live by a national television station, the event increased the visibility of the cause. The End It Now project is present across 8 countries in South America, and each year addresses a different form of violence.
We continue in South America, this time in Bolivia, where the End It Now initiative is gaining strength with new measures to protect children and youth.
Adventist education in Bolivia participated in the presentation of a new law for the protection of the sexual integrity of children and youth in digital environments. The event took place in Cochabamba, with the participation of students from the local Adventist school who shared digital prevention lessons, awareness messages, and resources. Educational and social authorities were present, emphasizing the importance of cooperation between public and private institutions in protecting minors. Since 2002, the End It Now initiative has been active in 8 countries in South America, promoting prevention, care, and awareness of different forms of violence.
In other news, ADRA warns of risk in the Lembang Fault in Indonesia. Here, nearly 3,000 houses have already been reinforced to face future earthquake events, and thousands of builders have been trained. The commitment now is to expand partnerships and prepare communities for this type of emergency. In the next video, the ADRA team explains the importance of reinforcing constructions in this region and teaches the steps for a safe evacuation in case of an earthquake.
If an earthquake happens, doors in houses can be hard to open because the shaking can change the structure of the house, becomes difficult to open. Most doors in our houses open inward, S, so people have to pull it inward. It's rare for our doors to open outward. The homeowner knows that if an earthquake happens, he does not exit through this door because there is a high risk of buildings collapsing in front of it. Therefore, he will exit through the door over there. The door here and structure here have been strengthened with Ferrocement, so it can still be opened relatively easily if shaking happens, because it has been strengthened with Ferrocement. In case of an earthquake, TSO, he will temporarily evacuate here, because the evacuation route there is very narrow, and the buildings on both sides are also at risk of collapsing and falling. This is one of the houses that has also been retrofitted. The challenge is when the homeowner goes out, but there are also other dangers to face. If we look, there are tiles like these. These tiles are quite heavy, and they can also collapse, posing a danger to those who are evacuating. The village government suggests evacuating in that direction. However, buildings like this make it challenging. The narrow roads make it hard for people to evacuate. Motorcycles might pass through. Motorcycles passing through will make evacuation hard. In an emergency, you can imagine, many motorcycles might be on the road, and many people would be evacuating as well. Often, in an emergency, and it's not the earthquake that kills, but accidents that happen during it. Because motorcycles speed in from there and exit from here, as well as coming from above. If you look, these are tiles. They are also likely to collapse because the building is old. That's one of the challenges in the Bandung Barat Regency, where houses are very close together, and evacuation routes may not be safe for those who need to evacuate. Tam in an area near the Lembang Fault with a high risk of earthquakes. But earthquakes themselves don't kill. What kills is badly built houses. That's why strengthening houses with ferocement is needed. It's very important, not just for families in houses like these. But also for strengthening houses along evacuation routes. It's very much needed to protect those using these evacuation routes in case of an earthquake. Stay resilient.
More than 1,300 people participated in the 4th edition of the UVO Films Christian Film Festival 2025 in Caracas, Venezuela. The event was organized by the Communication Department of the Seventh-day Adventist Church in the eastern region of the country.
The festival received 28 submissions from across the country, including short films, documentaries, music videos, animations, and podcasts. The central theme this year was mental health, showing how support and solidarity can help those who are suffering. Among the winners, the highlight was Felix Pacheco, a 12-year-old, with the animation Anxiety and Peace, which addresses autism and encourages compassion and empathy. The event received national media coverage and was live-streamed on YouTube. The organizers emphasized the importance of supporting the needy and taking care of the community's mental health.
Rolls of biblical images are bringing biblical teaching to remote communities in the South Pacific.
The Seventh-day Adventist Church in the South Pacific region has developed a visual resource that integrates teaching, culture, and evangelism in isolated areas. The scroll features 64 illustrated topics on 32 front and back pages, combining practical learning and faith principles adapted to the reality of villages. Lightweight, durable, and waterproof, the material allows leaders and educators to convey information clearly and interactively. Over 11,000 copies have already been distributed, reaching a large part of the territory. The illustrations, created by Phil McKay, contextualize the content to the local culture, making learning more visual and accessible.
ADRA is the global humanitarian arm of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. It operates in over 120 countries, providing emergency assistance and development programs. Behind this work are individuals who dedicate their lives to serving others, like Michael Peach. He has been working with the organization since 1997, helping the most vulnerable and needy.
My name is Michael Peach, and my full title is Senior Coordinator, Network Preparedness. I first started working as a volunteer for ADRA in 1997. I've been working with ADRA now close to 20 years. I think it gets in your blood. I enjoy disasters and the rewards of actually being with people in the field, meeting them at their most vulnerable time and supporting them. That's where I sort of feel that rush, particularly in those first few days following a disaster, to be on the ground, seeing how we can mobilise ADRA's global network to support people when they need us most, and also the value of the church partnership, being able to mobilise the local church, the volunteers, the infrastructure. That's exciting too, because in those first 7 to 10 days after a disaster, the church is probably our largest asset. Part of my role is to make sure that ADRA globally has a response capability. When a disaster happens, if requested, we have staff that can deploy globally to support a local response. Be there for a few days, be there for weeks, be there for months. I think technology has helped us to be more connected, to help us improve finding people when a disaster happens in that first 24 hours, and deploying them and keeping a track of them and bring them home safely again as well. I came home from this deployment saying, I don't think I'll ever top this. There was a cyclone response in Tonga in 2018. We don't have an ADRA office in Tonga, but we have a strong church presence there. I flew to Tonga and met with the president of the Adventist Church there and said, we need to go and meet with the head of the National Disaster Management Agency. He said, I'm not interested in your church volunteers. I'm not interested in you distributing food packages. And the church president said, can I pray for you? And I said, oh yes, that's a good idea, let's do that. So we knelt and prayed in this man's office and we left. And we drove back to the church mission. So while we were meeting, we received a phone call from the secretary at the government office saying, can you please come back now? We walked into the office of the director again, and he looked a different man. He was sitting there smiling, and he said to us, I'm sorry I was so rude to you before. What you're proposing is wonderful. So in the space of an hour, we went from having a rude response, getting the Prime Minister's blessing for the Adventist Church to lead a response on the island. And that all came down to a prayer. And after that, God opened doors. I think the best way that ADRA impacts communities around the world is through a disaster. It can be food, it can be water, it can be shelter, access to information, or even a SIM card. When you cross the border following a disaster and you don't have any way of communicating and there's an ADRA booth there with offering free SIM cards, it's such a simple but powerful and tangible way. I would like the world to know more about ADRA's competitive advantage is our global footprint through the 120 country offices that we have in our network, but also that we're part of the Adventist Church, that with a global reach of more than 23 or 24 million members. And that's what I want ADRA to be proud of, and that's what I want ADRA to be recognised for. My ADRA, my story is that when I put on my grey ERT vest, I feel like Superman. My name is Michael, and I am ADRA.
Let's now go to Japan. After 7 years, the region's Pathfinder clubs held a national camp again, bringing together hundreds of young people.
The setting was the mountains of Gunma. Hundreds of Pathfinders camped for 5 days at the 13th National Camporee of Japan. Mornings and afternoons were filled with workshops. A special booth of the Seventh-day Adventist Church in the North Asia-Pacific region, which includes Japan and Korea, offered practical learning and fun. The presence of South Korea added even more strength to the camporee and reinforced integration with Japan. Spirituality was at the center of the program as the stories of Joshua, Daniel, Paul, and Jesus inspired the daily messages, led by Japanese and South Korean leaders. The event also marked a historic change. For the first time, Japanese Pathfinders wore the official World Pathfinder uniform instead of their traditional attire. The integration between clubs was exciting. Each participant created a badge and exchanged it with others throughout the week. Adventists in Japan and South Korea hope to continue collaborating for future events.
A family in Cusco, Peru saw tragedy turn into hope. This story that begins with a baby on the brink of death is now inspiring children and youth in the local Pathfinder Club.
Hello, I'm Hugo Faulguay Guaranivar. I'm a member of the Pathfinders Club and I live in Cusco.
At just 3 months old, little Hugo and his family faced a life-threatening situation, but by God's grace, they overcame it. A gas leak had contaminated their home. Just seconds before losing consciousness, Mom was able to call Dad for help. Immediately, he rushed to help his family. When he arrived, the scene was chilling. His mother and oldest brother were unconscious, and little Hugo was nowhere to be found.
And that's when I discovered my youngest son, Huguito, hiding under the furniture while I was searching for him. I saw my wife lying unconscious on one side and my eldest son on the other. But I couldn't find my youngest son, Hugo. After searching through the neighbors' homes and everywhere else, I finally discovered him hiding under the furniture. When I held him in my arms after taking him out, he felt so cold. It shook our entire family and everyone present. Seeing the youngest son like that, they told me he had already passed away, and that was it. But I held my son close and said, "No, my son is not dead. I'm taking him to the hospital, and I believe God will perform a miracle." That's when I picked him up and took him to God. While I was in the hospital, I called my parents. I called our church pastor, and he prayed with the whole family, saying to me, "Son, don't worry. God will work a miracle." And he did. Today, Hugo is part of a musical group that praises God, and he is now a proud Pathfinder in our church.
Years have gone by, and Huguito and his brother have become known at school for their musical talent. Together with their parents, they express their worship to God. Her mother directs the Amisadai Pathfinder Club at the Tupac Amaru Church, while her father works as a counselor in Cusco. Both of their children are active members of the Pathfinder program there.
I've always dreamed of being a Pathfinder. I love going on campouts, and through the Pathfinder Club, I learned valuable skills to save lives. My brother and I discovered the importance of loving our parents and family. Right now, my family and I are studying a Bible course called Beloved in 28 Ways. When I grow up, I aspire to be a counselor and make a positive impact on the world.
I feel incredibly blessed and grateful to God for the opportunity to be at this South Peruvian Union camp and meeting with my entire family. My mom, my husband, and my 2 children are all here, and they're participating as Pathfinders in this event.
Huguito has felt the desire to be baptized since he was very young. With his parents' support, he waited until he turned 10 and joined the Pathfinder Club before taking this important step. Today, at the South Peruvian Union camporee, that dream will finally come true.
Loma Linda University, an Adventist institution in the United States, has inaugurated a solar energy system that is reducing costs, decreasing environmental impact, and ensuring greater safety in medical care.
More than 3,600 solar panels cover the parking lots and the rooftops. The system generates 2 megawatts of clean energy. A Tesla battery also stores the excess energy and ensures up to 6 hours of emergency power. The setup also supplies 10 electric vehicle charging points. It took 3 years of planning and 18 months of construction until the system became operational.
So we've had panels on top of the P4 parking structure, on top of the roof here at the Faculty Medical Clinics building, as well as on the ground level parking structure. But we've not been able to use that energy until today. After a lot of work, we've been able to work with regulators, with SoCal Edison, and we are finally going to be able to power this building with the sun's energy.
Faced with predictions of increasing energy costs, savings could reach $1.5 million. For Loma Linda, clean energy implies sustainable health, allowing the hospital to continue providing whole-person care.
In our next story, Creation Sabbath, celebrated in October, marks its 15th anniversary with a goal of planting 1 million trees.
Creation Sabbath began as an idea from a doctoral student at Loma Linda University. Today, the initiative is global. This year, Creation Sabbath has inspired 705 schools and churches across countries in Central and East Africa. Teachers and students have developed creation clubs and school gardens to encourage care for the environment. The continent is one of the most affected by deforestation and soil degradation. Creation Sabbath seeks to also address this challenge with the goal of planting 1 million trees. Around the world, Creation Sabbath is celebrated in a symbolic way on the fourth Saturday of October. It is a special time to recognize God as Creator. Regardless of where you are, anyone can participate in the celebration.
In the United States, Advent Health hospitals in Palm Coast, Florida, have started a program that turns food scraps into fertile soil. The initiative aims to reduce waste, support local farms, and strengthen the commitment to sustainability.
The program started in July of this year and has already collected over 2,000 pounds of food, equivalent to 900 kilograms, from the kitchens of the Florida Hospital Flagler and Florida Hospital Memorial Medical Center. Leftovers that cannot be served are sent to local farms, where they are turned into compost that enriches the soil and supports healthier crops. The collection is done in partnership with Old Town Compost, a sustainability group in Orlando, United States.
We have a lot of food scraps and food waste that is unusable but still good, but instead of going into the landfill and the dumpster, it could go into compost and go towards something good.
The program is part of Advent Health's sustainability efforts. In Palm Coast hospitals, the change starts in the kitchen and reaches the community. Less waste in landfills, more harvests, a healthier environment for all.
Let's travel to Brazil, where in Belo Horizonte, more than 200 families participated in the first Adventist Education Kite Festival.
The festival brought parents and children together to build kites and create family memories at the Ecological Park in the capital of Minas Gerais. The contest awarded 3 categories: the largest kite, the longest tail, and the most creative kite. The result was a colorful sky and moments of affection that showed the importance of personal interaction in an increasingly digital world.
You have followed the hope-filled news from ANN, with stories of people and projects transforming communities around the world. To learn more about the Seventh-day Adventist Church, visit www.adventist.org, and for real-time news, visit www.adventist.news. See you next week. Until then.